Welcome to the WRAL Daily Download. I'm your host, Amanda Lamb. In today's deep dive conversation with Nicole Karp, we're talking about something called graphic facilitation. It falls into the category of cool jobs I didn't even know existed. Nicole, welcome to the program.
Hi, thank you.
So you are an artist. That's kind of like your first designation, but you were able to get into this really interesting job, and I want to hear about it. What is your role in this company? I know you work remotely for a company in New York. What do you do for them?
Yeah, so the company, it's a consulting company, and within the consulting company, we have a group of people. We put on facilitated events for larger groups to find alignment. So we bring people together. It's usually 2 to 3 days. There's a long planning process beforehand to make sure we're putting everybody through the right workshop and asking questions. And then my role in that is the creative one. So I theme the room, but my most favorite part is when it gets to the large group conversations. It's called graphic facilitation. I'm standing at the board, and while people are talking, I'm tracking what they're saying with pictures and drawings and really bringing everyone's thoughts together visually on the board. And it gives people a way to follow along in a different way. Like the more visual thinkers can actually see what is bubbling up from this conversation in front of them and see how it changes.
That's really fascinating because I'm a visual learner. And when people tell me something, it's hard for me to take in. I literally have to watch you do something in order to learn it. So this is a really interesting job because, again, as I mentioned in the beginning, you're an artist. So tell me how you got into this.
By complete accident. I went to NC State for undergrad and studied art and design there. And art's always been my passion. After undergrad, I was helping manage a company in Raleigh that was really growing. And I realized I was in over my head with the business side of things. So I wanted to go to business school to kind of understand the more holistic environment that art kind of exists within. So I ended up going to Parsons in New York for strategic design and management, which was basically like an MBA, but using design thinking. And I graduated, and I was about to turn 26, and my dad said, if you don't find a job with health insurance before you get kicked off our health insurance, you got to come back to North Carolina.
And you are in North Carolina anyway, but
I did
still,
end up here.
Yeah, so you found a job.
I did. It was a listing they were looking for an illustrator with design thinking and some business experience, and I had no idea what they were talking about, but
You went for it.
I almost said auditioned. I interviewed for it, and it just happened to be everything I loved. There's a lot of problem solving, and I didn't know about the practice of scribing or graphic facilitation before I got that job, but I really learned it on the job.
And do you think as an artist, this is a great combination of being able to use your creativity, but also in a corporate world where you have, financial security, you have
100%.
Health insurance?
Yeah, and that was, something I was really worried about as an artist. But my most favorite part of my creative practice is that problem solving and kind of seeing how I can use what I can do to help other people. So this was a great way to bring that into the workspace and get paid for it.
That sounds great. Well, we will be back after the break. Welcome back to the WRAL Daily Download. We're talking to Nicole Karp about a job called graphic facilitation. So walk me through this. You have a meeting, and I'm assuming a lot of these you're on site for. You would go to the meeting, or most of them, and you're in the meeting, and there's people sitting around a table talking about a topic. How do you pull out things that they're talking about and illustrate them?
It's kind of a vibe. I hate to use that word. It's so
That's
overused,
okay.
But you can hear, and when we're getting people together, it's to talk about problems in the company. So there are a lot of emotions in the room sometimes, and people are having breakthroughs. So there's excitement, there's tension, and you can really feel that when people are speaking. So it's listening for tones to see what's important. And then it's also, when you get a group of people together, sometimes there's the loud voice in the room, and you can tell there's more introverted people that don't really want to speak up. So that's another tactic, is to, write down what the loud person keeps saying, and that's on the board, that's tracked. And once maybe the more quiet people say, oh, if I say something, she's going to draw it up on the board and it's going to look pretty, it encourages more people to speak up, and it gives you a better view of what the room's actually thinking and not just what the most confident people are saying.
So is there a lot of pressure? I mean, you've got a lot of people talking at once, and you're trying to do this quickly. Give me an example, for example, of a word that somebody might say that you would then have to visualize.
There's a lot of, well, I can tell a story about when I messed up because there was pressure.
Okay. We love those stories.
The question was, we were at the end, everybody had their roadmap, and the facilitator said, so what are we going to need to move forward? Everybody give me a word. And people were saying,
positive affirmation
Positive
words.
affirmations. And there was a group of people from Brazil in this particular meeting, and they were killing it the whole week, and they had all these great ideas. And so someone said Brazilians, and I was like, oh, that's nice. So I wrote Brazilians on the board and drew the flag and happy people. And I started hearing giggles behind me, and I turned around and I could just tell I had written the wrong word. And I looked at the Brazilians, and they were cracking up, and they said, resilience.
Oh, gosh, that is great. Resilience, not Brazilians.
So I left Brazilians and added resilience.
And do you ever have aha moments when people are talking and then they look up at the board and they're able to kind of piece things together because you've been able to help them visualize it?
Definitely. It's a moving, changing illustration. Especially we mostly work on whiteboards for this, so I can erase something, maybe a point someone made earlier. People had expanded upon it and it's turned into something else. So we can start, building a different model on the other side of the board, and you can really see how this thought connected to this thought, to this thought, to this thought, and made this whole new thing that everybody's on board with because it has everyone's perspective kind of built into it.
It's kind of like a flow chart in a way.
Mm-hmm.
What, you just told us a moment that you messed up. What is one? Do you have a moment that you remember being really proud of where people were actually like, wow, we figured this out? And part of that was looking up at the whiteboard and the illustrations.
I think every time it's the team that I'm there with on my side, which is usually 5 or 6 people, and we kind of get made fun of because we're the rock stars of the event. Everybody's working hard, but we're doing the visual part. And it's just so nice. Everyone always comes up like, that made so much sense. Thank you. That clicked. We really get it. And they always want to keep it afterwards. So
they take pictures of it.
Mm-hmm.
How many people are in these meetings? I mean, I guess it varies.
It varies. It's usually 25 to, I think the biggest one I did was probably 250.
That's a lot of people watching you draw.
Yeah.
And how long does this go on? Hours?
It's because it's within a greater workshop, there's a couple points of contact where it's really important. My favorite one described as the synthesis conversation. So kind of towards the end of the second day, once everybody's done a lot of work and there's a lot more disagreements or people are scared about what we might decide, we sit everyone in a circle instead of facing the board, so they're facing each other to really have an intimate, more honest conversation. And that's when a lot of fun things bubble up, I guess.
So you're still doing your own art, I would imagine, on the side.
I'm trying.
What do you do? What is your medium, or what is your favorite thing?
Mostly watercolors. I like watercolor and collage. It is hard to keep up both practices because they're both creatively draining. So
Sure.
That's kind of the double-edged sword of having a creative job is if you're doing that all day, it's kind of hard to want to keep going with your own stuff.
I know exactly what you're talking about as a journalist and a writer. So, Nicole, what advice would you give someone that's interested in getting into this field?
I would say just keep doing what feels right. I think I found it as an accident. So if you just keep working on your own practice, something's going to pop up in front of you that leads you there. But the field specifically, I would say Google it. There's, a bunch of people. I work at a company, but there's a lot of contractors that we use. And there's a really cool scene out there, I guess, that's doing this. And everybody has their own way of doing it. So it's definitely something to research if you're interested.
That sounds awesome. Thank you so much for sharing your job with us and your insight. This has been the WRAL Daily Download, a production of WRAL News. Check out my 2 true crime podcasts. What Remains focuses on solving cold cases with forensic science. Follow the Truth is about the murder of Michael Jordan's father in North Carolina in 1993. Find What Remains and Follow the Truth in your podcast app. Thanks again for listening.